Good evening and welcome to the Greenhouse Meadow, as Shrewsbury Town supporters get their first chance to put their questions to the manager, Paul Hurst. Well, it's certainly been quite a start for Paul, hasn't it? Town, of course, bottom of League One, 6 points from safety when he was appointed manager in October, heading south from Grimsby Town. Shrewsbury, though, have since collected 32 points from 21 league games to move 6 points clear of the relegation zone. Quite a turnaround. Tonight we will hear from Paul about what he makes of his time at the club so far, and of course his hopes for the future. But first of all, please join me in extending a very warm welcome this evening to Paul Hurst. That's a nice welcome, Paul. I think they like you here.
I hope so. No, I've been made to feel very welcome, and thankfully things have gone well to date, so hopefully it's the start of a long and good relationship.
Let's hope so. Great to see so many of you here tonight in the Sovereign Suite. Terrific turnout. I'm sure you all have questions, so without any further ado, if we can just see some hands in the air, and then we will get microphones to you and we will hear your questions. In fact, I will walk to you, sir. If you can just identify yourself, where you're from, and here we go.
Hi, I'm Andy Lewis from Crosshouses. Welcome to Shropshire Ball, Shrewsbury Town. Have you settled in the area, and what do you think of Shrewsbury?
I stay down a few nights a week, and then sometimes I get home, depending on where I'm watching games. The area itself, I have to say, very impressed with. I think it's a fantastic place, very quaint, and the people here are extremely polite, and I've been made to feel very welcome. But I did an interview today and said that I think some people, either they don't know who I am or are just sort of too polite to sort of stop me and say hello. I've only been stopped once or twice. But again, it just seems a really nice area. I've said about the support in the stadium, and I appreciate things have gone well, but I'm sure there'll be times when I'm given a hard time, and the team are. But in general, I think you're a very accepting crowd, very sort of knowledgeable, and appreciate the basics of, you know, what you expect from your team, and they're quite fair in all honesty. So hopefully that will continue, and you know, like I said, I've been made to feel welcome from day one, whether it's the staff, the players, or the people in the area.
Thank you for your question, Andy, for getting things underway. Who else has a question for the manager, Paul Hurst? Come on, don't be shy. This is your question. This is your chance. I'm sure many of you have screamed at the radio when I've been doing post-match interviews down the years. Why isn't he asking this? Why isn't he asking that? This is your opportunity. Evening, sir.
Mike Beverley from Church. Yep. Okay.
Hi, Mike.
Hello, Paul. This is a question about procedure in assessing cases where somebody's got a red card.
Yeah.
Particularly in the context of the sending off of Toto Enciala at Swindon.
Yeah.
First of all, when you make an appeal, have you seen the referee's report? Secondly, are you able to select the video evidence yourself? And thirdly, who is in the room when the decision is made?
If I can just start with the last part, in terms of the decision made, we don't get to see that side of it. We just hear about the decision that the panel have come to. In terms of, we see the referee's report when it comes in. I went to see the referee after the game on that day, and it was one of those occasions when the Swindon assistant manager had been to see the referee, and I had to wait 10 minutes or so to then go and see the referee, which suggests it might not have been the best game that he's ever had. And then you get a feel for what his thinking is in terms of, and straight away there was in my opinion, a sort of a wrong assessment of the situation. We also had that with Stephen Humphries, in truth, when I went to see him. His recollection of the event was very different, but at the same time, you get caught up in the game, and it's always nice when you can look back on it and look at the video and then think, yeah, I was right in what my initial thoughts were. We then at the club, through Adam Henshaw, who's our helps with all the recruitment and analysis, got the video together. We got obviously the time to put into it, where we could see that clearly the lad had sort of gone over the top of the ball on Toto, actually, when you slowed it right down. And Toto was certainly, not in the wrong there, although it was an aggressive challenge. That was the only fear, to be honest, with that appeal, was if they came out with this. This seems to be a common phrase, that people are over-aggressive, and like I said at the time, my keeper's not in the goal, and my centre-back's got to make a tackle. I expect him to go in aggressively, and thankfully, in that case, we won. We won the appeal with Jim O'Brien as well, so we're doing okay on that.
How do you know that they saw what video evidence they saw?
I guess you just open the fact that you put that time in, that's given it as evidence, and the panel do look at it. I'd like to think that they do, but it does seem a strange procedure, like going to Stephen Humphries, 2 yellow cards. I find it frustrating that you can't appeal these decisions as well, to be honest with you. So, you just hope that the common sense prevails. I'm very careful in terms of when you do appeal, because it can sometimes carry a longer ban. And I genuinely don't want to waste anyone's time. But on those occasions, I felt we had a good case. But I have seen it on TV. I'm sure we all have on Sky, where you look at a decision, it doesn't look like sending off yet, they appeal it and they lose the appeal. So it is down to interpretation. But thankfully, on our occasions at least, we've won the appeal, although it doesn't help you on the given day.
What's the size of the panel then?
I was going to say a 3-man panel, I believe, but I'm not entirely sure on that.
Thank you very much for your question. Mike, who would like to ask Paul Hurst a question? Yes, sir.
Hello, Paul. It's Keith Davies from Shrewsbury.
Evening,
on the
Keith.
same theme, when you see the names of the officials for a game, i.e. Boyson and other clients that we end up with, does your sort of team talk ever sort of you talk about the referee and what you think he may do? Because we seem to get these same people year in, year out, and they always seem to be making the bad decisions.
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say, I suppose, but ultimately, I do believe that certain referees have a certain reputation, shall we say, and occasionally I might mention that in the team talk prior to the game. Sometimes you look at someone's record and it's, they might be classed as being card happy, and you might have to, just warn your players to be, extra careful, particularly if they've gone in the book. I think sometimes you can get a sense on the day from a referee whether or not they book a player, for the first sort of incident that takes place. Now, you can sometimes say they're trying to stamp their authority on the game, but I think sometimes they're just, too eager. We've all got our opinions on referees. What I would say is it's an extremely difficult job. When I'm doing it in training, it's very easy because no one's going to shout back and question what I'm giving, and it's a case of get on with it. If they don't like it, it's tough. But we certainly, since I've been here, have been on the wrong end of some major decisions. I would say we've perhaps had one decision that went for us, realistically. So yeah, I think even referees, I think, will talk about each other, and they have a view as well on perhaps some of the colleagues. So Yeah, occasionally it does come into it, but I think you have to give the players the opportunity, but pre-warn them perhaps, just to be careful and see how the first 5-10 minutes plays out to maybe what you think you're going to be served up with.
Thank you, Keith. Lots of Radio Shropshire listeners have been getting in touch as well with their questions. Here's one from Dave King. Dave asks Paul, when you took the job, you had never managed at League One level before. Did you have any hesitations about taking it? And part B, how much confidence did you have in yourself that you could make the step up to the third tier of English football?
There was no hesitation once I'd spoken to the football club. In terms of managing at League One, while it's a step up, if anything, I believe it's slightly easier from my background and having, I was a player manager initially. I've managed budgets, done pretty much everything. So here there's a lot more support in place. From my point of view, there's an element that makes the job easier. With it, you end up, I think you can get totally swamped in terms of a workload still. It's the type of person am I. We have Adam that I mentioned doing the analysis, but realistically I want to watch the games myself. And then it's a case of just seeing if we're on the same page, he's seen the same things, as any of us missed anything. But I believe in myself. At the conference, I don't think you could get a much tougher job in some aspects than where I was, and been through a lot of situations in my management career to date. So from that point of view, I've got confidence in myself. I've got certain demands and the way that I like to work that I think would work, whether it's League Two, League One, Conference, Conference North, whatever it is. Of course, coming into the situation that we were in, that in truth, that was the concern, is could we turn things around, because we couldn't sign players realistically until January with a window, how it's set up. And assessing the squad, my belief was it needed to change. So, and that's no criticism to the previous manager at all. We've got different ways again, or different ideas of what you want. But I felt we were certainly lacking in areas. And the first thing was to try to get to January in touch. And in fairness, some players I think have stepped up. You the fans saw the start of the season, and I've heard a few thoughts on certain players that as though I've kind of revitalised them. I don't personally think that's the case, but I'm not saying that they're not playing better for myself for whatever reason, whether that's the system, the team playing better, them gaining more confidence. But that was the only concern, and I think it's a genuine one, because I'm sure there's people sat here tonight when I was given the job thinking, well, who's that, for one, which I accept. And I'm sure there's some people thinking it wouldn't matter who stepped in, we're not going to survive. So we've now given ourselves a good chance, but as I'm sure you keep hearing me saying, the job's far from done. But at least I think we would have all taken the position that we're in now from when I first walked through the door. And that's credit to the players that were here to start with, and the ones that we brought in.
Thank you, Paul. It's a special fans forum then, with the Shrewsbury Town manager Paul Hurst tonight at the Greenhouse Meadow, and it's your chance to put your questions to the manager. Who would like to go next? We'll just wait for a microphone to come your way. That will be marvellous. Thanks very much.
My name's Peter Dickin. I'm from Gaines Park in Shrewsbury. It's related to what you were saying before, but when you came to the job, how confident were you that you would be able to get Shrewsbury Town out of the relegation zone? And in a sort of related question again, how pleased are you with the progress that you've seen from the team so far?
I think initially I came in, you hope you can make a difference. And some of the performances that it's a quick sort of turnaround, but having quickly assessed the squad from afar and having seen some footage, I'm not going to lie to you, I had major concerns. And as I said, my first thought of getting to January with that squad and accumulating the points needed to stay in touch, I was concerned. I think anyone would have been. But I did feel that, as sometimes happens, not the first manager to go in and you have an initial uplift, and it's trying to carry that on. And what I've found so far today, and hopefully it will continue, is I feel that players are willing to play for me and get on board with what we're trying to do. So from that point of view, that was my first hope. And the second part of the question, I'm delighted. I have to say, with the best will in the world, I don't think it could have particularly gone much better. Maybe a run in the FA Cup. Other than that, I think, without sort of being sort of silly in terms of what I was hoping for, it's gone better than could be expected. And I hope that we can finish the job off in these last 10 games. And then next season, hopefully as a League One club, I've said out on record not so long ago, I want to try and raise hopes, not expectations, a slight difference for me, but I want everyone to want that little bit better, providing it's realistic. But I think, a few people that have been at the club a hell of a lot longer than myself have said, about everyone, there's kind of, not a lack of ambition, but again, a kind of acceptance as, it's okay, because the club has been up and down a lot, certainly between League One and League Two, had some time in the Championship. In my career today, I've been used to being at the other end of the league, and that's what you always strive for. Everyone wants that. You as fans, I'm sure, want that. I as a manager do. I want any players that we bring in to want that, not just be satisfied with being average. But again, there has to be an element of realism of what we're up against at times. But yeah, delighted today, but fingers crossed, even more pleased, come the 30th of April.
And the next question, if I just walk your way.
My name is Brenda. So what have you done different? What has been the big change? Because they were awful to watch. So what have you done differently, you and Chris Doig?
I'm sure that a lot of you were there last Saturday and question, we haven't really done much, unfortunately. But no, in general, look, it's very hard for me to say, because I'm not one for sort of coming in and questioning someone else's work, because again, we all work differently. I think as soon as we got the opportunity, we quickly added some pace and some energy to the team and the squad, which was lacking in my opinion. Unfortunately, I think the players, in the time that Danny took the team, showed, I would suggest, a lack of respect to him overall. I watched a couple of those performances. It looked like they were lacking direction and a leader, which they had in Danny, in truth. That, for me, is on the players, no one else. It's not an excuse. I've played under plenty of caretaker managers. I can assure you I never gave anything less, because that's the wrong thing to do. But I think the work ethic, hopefully in time we've given them a little bit of a belief, and more often than not we've played a certain system, which I think before, kind of, from what I can understand, changed quite often. Personnel change very often. I'm not saying I wouldn't have done that if we'd have played the 4-4-2 and we get beat and get beat and get beat. You have to change something, and I'm sure he was trying to find that winning formula. But thankfully we've seemed to have found that pretty quickly, and we haven't won every game, of course, but I think we've certainly been hard to beat, if nothing else. And if that's you on your worst day and you're hard to beat, then you give yourself a chance. But speaking to people, I think that we're here, they feel that the players are working harder. Now, whether that's just me demanding, whether it's a fresh start, whether some of them are worrying about whether they're going to get contracts, who knows? In this position, I'm sure as fans you get sceptical at times. But for me, bringing the squad together, trying to make people feel good about themselves, but within, at the same time, like I said, making sure that they know they're under scrutiny every day in training and certainly every game. Okay.
Thank you for the question. And we have another one, rapidly coming up as well. Just wait for the microphone, sir.
All right, Paul, my name's Alan Hughes. With all the talk recently about the training facilities that you've got, with the fact that it's been very wet and that, could you see a time now that the club has made a bit of money, that there could be an all-weather pitch, high-grade one at the new training facility?
No, I don't believe that's sort of in any plans. In truth, I think Brian's got a different view as chief exec in terms of the surfaces and how that works in Scotland, and non-league have introduced that for league games. I'm not a fan at all in terms of my experience, injuries that have suffered. As soon as we train there, and it's not only here, I've had it at many clubs and spoke to a lot of other managers about it. If you say, right, we're going to train on the 4G, although some people say there's no such thing as 4G, whether it's 3G, 4G, artificial, however you want to call it, you get a number of players that think they can't train on it or can't train on it. So I'm not a fan. Like I said, we went up on Monday this week, and then that was it for me. I didn't want to be back there. It was more just a needs must for a day. And I think the facility that we've got the use of will suffice if we have to do that. So it's not something, I think it's more on a commercial side if you were going to look at it for that reasons. But where we are, we need the grass that's going to be at the new facility. And work starts there next week in terms of the building. So fingers crossed, we'll be in that soon.
You excited about that development, Paul, having a new spruced up training ground?
Yeah, definitely. The training pitch out the back was fine to train on when we first came in, but the weather, and it's difficult, don't get me wrong, I think obviously you'll know better than myself, but I've heard about in the past how Shrewsbury seems the flooding and seems to get quite a bit of rain in the area anyway, but certainly of late we've had a lot of rain, and every pitch, driving, when I drive down, you only have to look in the fields, you can see them. Everyone's, I think, struggling, or most places. But to have this new training ground is a big attraction in terms of the job when I first spoke to the club. And, I want it to be somewhere that we're all proud of, and I think it will be when it's all done. One that I can bring players to and show, as well as bringing them here. And I think that'll be a big pull, an attraction to have that facility available to us. And I can't get in quick enough in truth, but it's, taking a bit of time. But things are progressing, and, I'm really looking forward to that.
It's a question and answer session then with the Shrewsbury Town manager, Paul Hurst. Keep them coming, please. We have a hand up here at the front.
Hi Paul, Alex. I just wondered, the Dublin incident, have you ever had to deal with something like that, and how do you go about dealing with it?
First awkward question. I thought we were doing well. I might just have a drink. Yeah. And on art, whether did I like the fact that it happened? No, of course not. But these things do happen. I think you put a group of, I'd say men, some are boys and some are lads, is probably a better way to phrase it. You let them have a drink, and occasionally things happen. You know, I don't want to sort of be blasé about it, but you always run that risk. I'm a big believer in the players having the Christmas party, because again, I think a big part of success is having team spirit and things like that. Some people might think it's old school, old art, but my most successful time as a player was in a team that we often went out. And again, I accept times have changed, players don't drink as much and things like that, but the togetherness that we had made up for a lot of sort of shortcomings we had as a group. This team, when I came in, the squad, speaking to players, hadn't done anything together, which amazed me. It was one of the first things brought to my attention, and I don't think it was because they just wanted a night out. But it looked like that on the pitch. I think you'd probably agree that there wasn't that spirit there, whereas now I think, again, everyone's fighting for each other. On this occasion, unfortunately, it kind of went too far, that fighting. But no, it was, I think in the end, it was kind of sorted out. In terms of me dealing with it, we've had similar incidents, in truth. And as long as you don't feel there's anything carried over, then I think you just get on with it. And that's what we very quickly did. As you said, would I prefer it not to happen? Of course not. It's not ideal, but I wasn't going to try and make something of it that didn't need to be. I'm sure that there's loads of Christmas parties in different walks of life where the same things happen, and obviously it doesn't get mentioned. So, yeah, when the next time they go out, hopefully there's not a similar incident, but it'll be dealt with if there is.
Thank you, Paul. Any more questions, awkward or otherwise, potentially?
It wasn't too bad.
Hello, Paul again. Are you aware of the Rotherham rumours about becoming their manager next season? And has the planning for next season got underway yet?
I'm not aware of the rumours. It's a club that I guess I was linked with before, and that proved to be wrong. So you're always sort of flattered in one sense, but again, it's a lazy link in my opinion. I say it when strikers are linked with clubs, it's lazy scouting a lot of the time, because they just look at the newspaper and we scored 29 goals and I played a lot of games for Rotherham, so it's an obvious sort of link, and happens with a lot of other players at various other clubs. In terms of planning, yeah, planning's definitely started. We're looking at pre-season. We've got a start date back, what we expect, and player-wise, we've got a board at the football club, which some of the media guys will vouch for, that he's got a list of every position, of possible targets, loan players, maybe some that probably are out of reach, but we'll put them on there to ask a cheeky question. So yeah, planning's definitely started. The only thing I would say is, without sounding negative, we haven't secured League One status as yet. That's got to be done first. Some players probably cross over both. Others will be determined on which league we're in. So, but the board is realistically set up for League One players, not League Two.
Just talking of ambitions, Paul, you struck me as an ambitious guy. You've come up through Boston and obviously Grimsby and Ilkeston. Yeah. And here you are now in League One. Short term and long term, what ambitions do you set for yourself on an individual level, if you do?
I don't really, other than just to try and manage at the highest level possible. Now, who knows what that is? I might have reached it. This industry that I'm in, and it is, look at all the managers that I look at someone, for instance, I was chatting with a friend today and he mentioned Alan Kirbishley, who at one time I felt should have been England manager. at a time when probably people wanted to be England manager as well, rather than maybe thinking they can't get another job, so they'll take that one. It's so difficult, you know. I was desperate to get promoted with Grimsby to become a Football League manager, because if I hadn't have done that, then there was a big question mark whether I would have had the opportunity, realistically. So to have done that now, if we lose the next 10 games and we get relegated and I get sacked, I'd like to think I would get, at worst, get a conference job, and a very good conference job, possibly a League Two job. So I'd take it, and I think the people that I work for would vouch for that. I will always kind of look on the negative side on a personal level, and not get carried away thinking I'm going to be manager of, I don't know, Arsenal if Arsene Wenger leaves. So I'm realistic with myself, but at the same time, you have to just do the best you can and see where it takes you. You know, when I was manager in Ilkeston, when we were first asked to do it, if someone would have said, you're going to manage Shrewsbury in however many years it is, you know, I would have thought they were talking nonsense. But if you work hard, and, you know, I've say it to my players, I say it to myself, if I can go home, look myself in the mirror and think, have I given everything to that job? And the answer is yes, and it's not good enough, I can accept that. But again, I've worked with people as player before, or you hear about what other managers do, and some people don't give the job the attention that it requires, and eventually they probably fall by the wayside. But there's certain things that, and luck's one of them, that comes into, you know, me getting an opportunity initially to manage where I was. A manager moved on, I was a senior player along with Rob Scott, so we were asked to do the job. Thankfully we did well. We talked about refereeing decisions earlier, and how they can cost people jobs. That's why you get upset with them when you go and speak to them after. I don't know if they quite understand, you know, what it means. I'm not, you know, if they keep making those mistakes, they'll lose the job. But they don't lose the job as quickly as what managers can. Injuries have a big say. You know, you might be very unlucky. As much as you try and put a squad together, you get 3 injuries to key players, suddenly you're up against it. So there is, unfortunately, that element of luck with it. But as long as you cover, you know, as many bases as you can, and put the work in, then you give yourself a better chance of, you know, achieving success. So who knows where this can take myself, and initially this football club. Like I said, I want to try and sort of heighten, you know, hopes and ambitions at the football club. But first and foremost, in terms of a short-term thing, like we said, that's certainly League One. Because I've speak to other people and they think we're safe. But some people thought we'd beat Coventry easy and we didn't do that. So, you know, let's get that ticked off first, and then we can really start to, you know, try and push and see where it takes us.
Okay, and the next question, please. You're listening to a fans forum here at the Greenhouse Meadow this evening.
Hi Paul, it's Rob from Shrewsbury. I'm also working for the Official Supporters Club, and I've got 1 or 2 questions coming my way on Facebook. One of them is from Katie with regards to contracts of the likes of Agogo and Sadler. As we get to the end of the season, are they going to be extended, and others? And I guess also some of the loan players, are you thinking of bringing them in on a permanent basis or on loan for all season next season?
The loan players, I think that's a difficult one, because you're never quite sure what the parent clubs are thinking. I think in the case of, I don't know, say Tyler for instance, I would imagine that West Brom will want him to go back to that football club, certainly initially. Stephen Humphreys the same, Stephen Payne the same, Jack might be slightly different, and then Ryan Yates I would imagine will go back to Forest and have pre-season with them. You know, what I'd like to do, I do feel we will, no matter what happens, we'll look to try and get some loan players in, because ultimately you can get better deals. And I know that there's perhaps been a question mark here and at other clubs, do loan players care? Well, that's kind of my job in terms of getting the right characters, which I think I've mentioned quite a lot in interviews about the characters side to it. The others at this moment in time will have to wait. Now, that's then comes down to them about what they want to do. But as I said, there's not total uncertainty, but until we achieve what we're striving to do, about what deal we can, put to the player. The lads that are out of contract, majority of them have probably been in the team and done well. If they keep doing well, then I'm sure that there'll be something on offer from myself. But I've come from a very different place on contracts, where we've waited, and I've had to literally wait until the playoffs have finished and then speak to players 2 days later. Now, while that might be different here, and there is an element of, again, trying to get his own house in order, know exactly where we're at before, putting offers out there, then that leaves us short in other areas. So at the minute, though, any talks like that are on hold. But I think the players that we're speaking about in general know what I think of them. So there may be an indication there of, what will come, but it won't be a definitive, we can offer you X amount of pounds.
Could I ask you actually about Matt Sadler, Paul? Opening couple of months of the season, he was often not even in the 18. He seems to have flourished under your management. He's got the captain's armband now. He always strikes me as being a terrific professional. What have you made of his attributes?
He's been excellent for myself. I dropped him at Sheffield United, which the game since was the wrong thing to do. But I was worried about his athleticism, his pace in playing at left back, and the majority of games he's obviously played at centre back for me, which you then worry, is he quite tall enough? Is he that dominant figure that you want back there? But I think, to be fair, in both positions, he's answered the questions that have been asked of him. He's brought, I think, an element of calmness to the back line. He talks, he's vastly experienced. You look at his record in terms of injuries, I'll touch wood quickly, it's excellent again. Some players naturally play better for different managers. Some players are rubbish for one football club, go to another football club and flourish. Whatever it's happened, I'm not ignorant enough to know that fans have spoke about Matt in particular, and maybe one or two others, about a turnaround in their form. And for me, he's been pretty much an ever-present. And, the other important thing, he's a great professional and person. And when I did drop him, he was disappointed. But although it was relatively early in my time here, I knew straight away there was going to be no sulking, no throwing his toys out of the pram. We'd be back on the training ground, he'd work hard and want to get back in the team and prove me wrong, which I'm more than happy for people to prove me wrong when I, take those decisions. So, a fantastic lad, fantastic character. He's also become a dad while I've been here. That hasn't affected him at all. And, I went through that. It's not easy. Sure, all the dads here will appreciate that. It's a hard time, it's enjoyable, but it's hard. But he hasn't let anything affect him, and long may it continue, and certainly for the remainder of the season, Matt's experience will be crucial to us.
Thank you, Paul. And the next question.
Hiya, Paul. It's Peter Oden from Telford. Just like to know what your take is on Shrewsbury Town having 4 full-time goalkeepers on the books at present. Do you think it's too many, or are you going to address that in the summer?
Yeah, it's something when I first came in I was very surprised at. Again, certainly wasn't ideal or what I wanted, but at the previous club I had one, and then I had a goalie coach. And it's a bit like asking Danny to sit on the bench here and go on, which he still knows what he's doing, but just physically it's not going to work. So I was very surprised. Seeing the lads work, it works well for Danny with having the numbers here. I will have to look at it in more detail once again. We know exactly where we are, what is the budget, what can we stretch to. What I would say is the two younger keepers, I don't expect realistically them to be in my team at this moment in time. I think out of all the positions on the pitch, that is the one that you have to be absolutely exceptional if you're going to be in a team at that age for a goalkeeper. So I'm happy to give time to some of those lads, whether it's on loan or just working with Danny and getting better. But I think they do need games, and we've managed to get Callum Burton out. Sean was out before, to gain experience. Because again, I've spoke recently, Danny does some really good work with them, but there's certain situations that games put you in that are hard to replicate. Again, harder than outfield players, and also concentration levels. I mean, Callum played last night and let 6 in. Now, I asked Danny and he said maybe one he could have done better with, but only one. So doesn't mean he's had a terrible game. It's all, again, part of his learning. It's an experience he won't want to happen too often. But sometimes these things actually do make you better. And him going out and playing is certainly going to improve him.
Thank you for the question. Gentlemen in the 4th row, please. You're up next with your question to the Shrewsbury Town manager, Paul Hurst.
Hello, I'm David from Meal Brace, just down the road. And again, thanks for all you've done, what you're trying to do, much appreciated. How happy are you with the actual playing size of the pitch now? Before you came here, the pitch was marked out significantly bigger, and particularly as you seem to favour playing with wingers in an attacking formation, which we're all enjoying, would you consider perhaps for next season having it maybe a metre wider each side and a metre longer each end?
It's straight away, obviously, coming here in the Cup with Grimsby, and so it was a nice pitch, and I think it suited my team on that night. And then having a look at it, and straight away it was evident it was a smaller area. I think it depends on what you can bring in, because certainly I do like to play with wingers. I like to use the width. I want my full-backs to get forward when they can. But there has to be an element of you have to still be a good team, no matter what formation you set up in. I'm not sure of the exact reasons why it was reduced in size, but my hopes would be to try and get a squad in place that would allow me to extend the pitch and make it bigger. As a player, although it probably made my job harder being a full-back, I like playing on big pitches. Port Vale's that we're going to very soon is renowned for being one of the bigger pitches. I really enjoy playing there. It gives you space. Unfortunately, it's hard work though for players. Some of them are a bit work shy sometimes, but well, again, we tried. I think when a team's struggling at the wrong end, it is often something you look at, but some of it 100% is between the ears, because I've got the same staff, with the exception of obviously Chris, and those lads work extremely hard and are professional in their approach, so it would be sort of a slight on them really. That said, we might ask to do something slightly different. I think the intensity of training's probably changed. The overall output in terms of a daily basis I don't think's changed too much. But again, I think just the sort of pace and tempo there has to train at has probably increased. So that, I think, that and winning games, suddenly you're willing to run a little bit harder and faster. When you're at the bottom, you know, again, if you haven't got those characters in your team that are willing to fight and make it difficult, you know, you can very quickly look at an average team and an unfit team. So I didn't want to come in and go along the fitness route particularly. Are they fitter now? I'm not too sure. But obviously, if you think they are, then that's, again, I'd suggest that's more what's in between their ears than anything else.
Thank you, Paul. Flying through your questions, who would like to pose a question for the Shrewsbury Town manager? Jack? We'll be with you as soon as he can, sir.
That's the quickest Jack's ever moved, I think, since I've been here.
Hello, Jeff Davis, Copthorne. Would you like to see a reserve team in place next year?
Yes, or in some form. Again, that's something that we need to come to a conclusion on as we move forward. And in planning, I've got an idea in my head of what I would like. The issues we have then is partly logistics, facilities again, because while the training ground is a good size area, when we've put the pitch in, you can get one pitch as in that's the size of ours, and as we said, if we make that slightly bigger again, and then a sort of smaller pitch. And I spoke from day one about trying to get the youth team on site. If we then add a reserve team, a development squad, out, or however you want to dress it up, I suppose, suddenly we've got an issue in terms of space again. So these are questions that we've got to find answers to. And I know there was issues with the reserve team before, again, logistically, in terms of the league that we were in, where they were having to travel, the timing of games, and I've had it both ways, where we haven't had a reserve team, then we had a reserve team, and neither in truth were exactly what you want. An idea that we have spoke about was trying to get, again, a younger team together to give youth team players perhaps a chance to progress, but under his own sort of judgment rather than sending them out on loan. But trying to set up a games programme that, against maybe some of the local teams, if possible. But again, there is a little bit of uncertainty there on exactly what we can and can't do at this moment in time. But I do feel the likes of, an Ethan Jones, Cayman Anderson, I haven't had, it's been very difficult for me to get to see them play. So it's hard, come the end of the season, their contracts are up, to make a real judgment call on them. And that's kind of a negative that I've got myself, that it's going to be difficult for those lads unless we have some kind of pathway for them to progress here at this football club. Because with the best will in the world, the likes of Cayman and Ethan, I know they're well thought of here by a lot of the fans, and they are, they've got a chance. But are they anywhere near a Tyler Roberts? The honest answer is they're not. They're not close. So while we, I think there's a bit of a call or a question mark as why we bring in some other young players in from elsewhere when we've got our own, it's purely a quality. That's the answer for it. So I would like to get something in place to give these young players, a better chance.
You mentioned Tyler Roberts, Paul. Leads us on nicely to a question from Mike, a Radio Shropshire listener, who does ask, how good a player is Tyler Roberts, and how good can or will he be in the future?
We spoke about this, and first and foremost, we're very grateful to West Brom for letting him come out on loan to us, and also in terms of how they've let us manage him. That's important for me. I never want to be in a position where you bring someone in and you've kind of forced to play someone, because that's not the right situation to be in. You know, the last thing I want to do is having to keep someone's name on the writing the name on the team sheet, and he's going out there and, you know, underperforming. So there's no guarantees for Tyler to play, but his performances have made him, you know, be in the team more often than not. How good can he be? I think that's up to Tyler. In truth, again, he's at a club currently where he's getting the opportunity to play League One football, but his parent club are a Premiership club that are obviously extremely well run, got all the facilities. There's few excuses really for Tyler. I think it is down to him. Someone said the other day, or I was told, a conversation that someone said that they thought he could go on and play for England, but he's Welsh. So I don't think that will be happening. But I would be disappointed if I don't see Tyler playing in the Premiership in years to come. That's probably what the best way I can answer that.
Thank you, Paul. Let's go to the gentleman on the front row. Your question for Paul Hurst.
Barry from Shrewsbury. What's your idea as a manager of a winter break, like December, January, when the snow and frost is about? Are you in favour of it or not?
No. I think because the weather is too unpredictable still. You know, we can take a break. We could take a break in January, and perhaps December's been worse. Then we have a break in January, we have good weather, and then it's February that serves the bad weather up. I don't think it's set in stone enough. And then what you can very quickly get is, a real backlog of games for the remainder. I do think we could perhaps structure the season better somehow, in terms of we seem to start the season, you play a hell of a lot of games, then it settles down, then you have a lot of games towards the end of the season more often than not. Certainly if you have any kind of cup run that, unfortunately we haven't had this season, but I've done previously at this club, and, ourselves have been involved in that. So I'd prefer to try and get as many games in, not every Tuesday, but a few more midweek games in the first half of the season to then, let things settle down. But no, I'm not convinced about a winter break, because again, a winter break as well, it's not like if you have 3 weeks off, the players aren't getting 3 weeks off. It just means you don't play a game for 3 weeks. They might get a week off or a few days off, but everyone's not going to let them lose all the fitness, and then so it's a bit false for me, really. I don't really see a value in it, to be honest.
Into the last 10 minutes then of this special fans forum, and we have a hand up at the back of the room. Just bear with us, sir. Get the microphone to you. What's your question, please?
Hi Paul, it's Rob from Telford here. Firstly, I know the job's not done yet, but thanks for reinstating some belief and passion into the playing side of the club that was lacking at the start of the season. My question is around the strikers. So obviously the ones we've got playing at the moment don't belong to us. We've been a bit of a graveyard for strikers over the years, with the exceptions of Collins and Holt, going back a bit now. Obviously, you had the lad Bogle at Grimsby. Is non-league something we're looking at to look at striking options in the future? Are there players out there that you've got your eye on, or are we going to be relying on loan players in the future for that area of the pitch?
I hope not, but what I would say is you speak to every manager up and down the country, and there's always a striking area that they're having problem, getting players in. Now, a large part of that, whether we like it or not, is finance, because strikers in general are the best paid. They're the ones that a club will often, push the boat out for, and you have to be, very certain, I think, if you're going to go down that route and put all your eggs in one basket. Then, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of luck, he gets injured. What do you do then? It wouldn't surprise me, hand on heart, if we did have a lone striker or a couple of lone strikers, moving forward. But I certainly would like to have at least one, that is ours. We've got AJ, but he's struggled with injury, having had a bright start when I came in. And we've got Louis Dodds, who isn't a striker, but is a forward player, I would suggest. So yeah, for the squad, I would certainly like another one. In terms of where we're looking everywhere, is the honest answer. The difficulty with non-league, there's that many scouts now. Nearly every game you go to, no matter what level, everyone is so scared of missing out on, and I think it is, I've said it before, Jamie Vardy. That's what really set it off for me. People were looking, but since that happened, no one can sort of have an half-decent game without having 5 or 6 clubs watching them. And it's then, but having said that, in Omar's case, I would suggest there were a lot of people watching him. And I think in the end, it was himself and one of the club that, seriously made a move for him. And, he's went on and scored the goals that helped us get promoted, and has since got his move, to the Championship. So you can fall, again, I think, lucky at times. But we'll certainly look. I mean, it wasn't a secret. It came out, not a forward, but the lad Conor Bramall, who went to Arsenal. We were getting him in. The day that he was supposed to come here, he went training with Arsenal. And then the rest is history. Now, is he going to be good enough for Arsenal? Who knows? I hope, for the lad's sake, that he is. But it's hard to compete with Arsenal when they come knocking, I must admit, no matter what we think of this football club. So yeah, we'll keep looking, we'll keep trying. And, I think I've showed with some of my signings already, I'm not frightened if they haven't played in League One. I hadn't managed in League One. Until you get the opportunity, you're never quite sure. But I have worked with players in the past that, Toto and Alex, prime examples. Having watched them then coming in here, looking at the squad, thinking 100% they're good enough to be part of our squad. And I think they've showed that. Their challenge now is, can they do it week in, week out, and become major players in this team? Said, in fairness to Alex, took him out recently because I think he hadn't been playing at Notts County. So again, I could understand if there was an element of, what am I doing? I get it. But he came in, played games, and I think it just caught up with him a little bit. He himself admitted he was trying to get fit as well. He's a naturally fit lad, but it took a bit of time. But there are players out there that I think can very easily play, find themselves at a League Two or a League One club. Now, what success they get might come down to managers' belief in them, where they're asked to play, what system they're asked to play in. So it's not all about names. And, I think some of the players that were here that I inherited, I'm not saying they're not good enough to have been here, but collectively, for me, it wasn't working. And it's about striking a balance. But one thing, 100% I want, is people that work hard, people that appreciate the job that they're in, and will give everything. And again, if they come up short, I've said it recently, I kind of found myself saying it a lot. If after, say, Coventry, I can go home, put my head on the pillow, think about how rubbish we were, but believe that the players that I put out there tried their best, but just had a bad day, and time will tell whether that was the case. That's what we're all hoping. It was a bad day at the office. I can live with that, because partly it's either my decision, wrong decision in the first place, that they're not as good as I thought they were, or that's what we've been able to bring in. They're the best players we've been able to get, and they're giving everything for the shirt. And I think that's all as fans, my experience is that's all fans ever really ask for. And again, if we do come up short, at least come up short fighting, not, laying down and getting the white flag out. So, that's what we'll try and do.
Thank you very much. Let's squeeze in one final question, please. Young man at the back of the room, please.
Hi, I'm Lou Morris from Base Hill. How much do the fans influence the players and the outcome of the game, do you think?
I think it can be a big help, genuinely. I was told here that it's, extremely quiet in general, and there's a section of fans that maybe get on the players' back. Again, my experience is, and don't take this the wrong way as fans, but if you can't play here, then you're going to struggle, because I don't think anything that gets shouted from the terraces, from the seats here, is anything like what I've experienced in my playing career or managerial career. I think, again, providing that players are trying, you're always going to get someone, let's be honest, in any walk of life, someone's always going to disagree with a decision I make, a decision a player makes out there. But in general, the fans here have been very good, and there's been some really good days here. At the end of the game, you can tell whether you've done all right or not. Most fans had gone on Saturday when I walked on the pitch and clapped the ones that were there. But that's something I've said I will always do, and sometimes it's hard because I've had it in the past. You go out, you clap the fans, whether it's home or away, and you're basically getting told to do one. It's probably the polite way. But for the genuine fans that, it's just an acknowledgement of my appreciation towards the fans, and the players will always be asked to do that as well, because again, there's certain things that I just think are the right thing to do, and here the fans have been good and got behind the team. The sign of true fans is when things aren't going well. We can all support a team that's winning 4-0, 5-0. Unfortunately, we haven't experienced that yet. But hopefully in time. But when you're perhaps 1-0 down and passes are going astray, that's when you need your true fans. And, for me, I've got that here. I haven't felt a real negativity. And again, results help with that, I get that. But that's what we, need to do, is everyone together. And then hopefully we'll all get what we want at the end of this season. And then look forward to, hopefully, a better season next year.
Final one for me, Paul. 10 games to go. What's your gut instinct on how it's going to play out, beginning with Chesterfield away this weekend?
Just Chesterfield. No just Chesterfield.
and the 9 after that.
Good question. Look, I genuinely believe that we're good enough to stay up. That's what I believe. I think the performances have shown that. As I've said today, the last 10 games that we've had, only one team's collected more points than us. So I was disappointed last weekend, but you look at it and think, well, one, we took a point, and two, the run that we were on, a lot of other managers must be a lot more disappointed than what I am. If we can, do half as well, we'll stay up. What we want to do is, one, not panic, but try and get the points on board as quickly as possible, and that way we might get to enjoy the last few games instead of worrying. I think last season, was it the penultimate game, was safe? So again, that was probably a bit too close, and it doesn't do anyone's health any good. So if we get the performances that we've had more often than not since I've come in, we'll be fine. But again, we have to do that. If we play like we did last Saturday for the next 10 games, we'll go down. But I don't expect to see that performance, too often.
There you are then. It's been a fascinating hour in the company of the Shrewsbury Town manager, Paul Hurst. Town next in action, of course, at Chesterfield on Saturday. If you're not going to Derbyshire, full commentary, of course, as always, on BBC Radio Shropshire. Goes without saying, Paul, we wish you and the team all the luck in the world for the rest of the season. We've enjoyed your opening 4.5 months at the football club. Very impressive points return, and long may it continue. Ladies and gentlemen, the Shrewsbury Town manager, Paul Hurst.